you're into newgrass or bluegrass music, you probably know who my next guest is. I talk with Sam Bush. Listen on to see why I had to ask. I'm on the phone with my favorite musician, Sam Bush. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lillian. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, doing really well as I'm talking to you, coming to you from Park City, Utah, where my band plays tonight. Then we'll be back in preparation for festival season.
Yay. So I know that you named your 1937 Gibson F5 mandolin Haas. How did you come up with the name?
Well, Lillian, I'd love to take full credit for naming it, but really, I think Tony Rice named it, and when he named it, he called it Old Hoss. He'd always go, "How's Old Hoss? How's the Old Hoss doing?" And so it just kind of stuck, and it's so funny because of when people, friends of mine that are instrument repairmen that work on it, we all talk about Hoss like it's a person and that it's its own god. I mean, obviously Hoss was born a long time ago, so I guess he's long on Social Security now. But it's interesting, when you name an instrument. I don't know if Tony's guitar has a name, but he and I've always felt like our two instruments matched up really well together in tone. That they of course, him playing it, that's the reason his guitar sounds that way. But so it's fun when you continue to love an instrument. I got Haas in 1973, and it's just fortunate that it's, of all the little things that have happened to it, little cracks and breaks that happen over the years, that it's still up and running, and he's doing really great. So I told somebody once, I said, "Well, you're really going crazy when you not only name your instrument, but somehow Hoss got assigned a gender too, so Hoss is a guy, I guess." But a cranky old man some days, but for the most now, and right now as I'm talking to you, of course I'm out here in the mountains, and in the wintertime, Hoss is a little too old to go to the mountains, and that the wood is so brittle and dry, I guess, in the old instrument. Sometimes it falls into disrepair out in the mountains here. So I've got his favorite little brother, the one I call Little Joe, out here with me. It's this year 2000 Gibson Sam Bush model. So all the Sam Bush models are made and they're copied after old Hoss. So I've got Little Joe out here with me, and so Hoss is at home, living the good life.
Are you a Bonanza fan?
I was when I was a kid, yes. Well, now it's funny because there was a guy that worked at Gibson when he first, named Jim Triggs, instrument builder, and when he made the first Sam Bush model prototype, he just named it Little Joe. He said, "Yeah, we got to keep it in the Cartwright family." Okay.
So I was able to attend a screening of your new movie Revival at the 2015 IBMA. What was the best part about creating the movie?
Well, it's interesting because, it's sometimes as you learn to play music and play and sing, at first it's really intimidating to hear the playback of your own playing and singing when you record. That can be a big shock. So it's really, I haven't gotten past the spot where it's sort of odd to look at a screen and see your own face on it, or to see yourself talking. It's just because I haven't trained to be an actor or to want to be in on the screen or in TV, and so it's neat to watch the story unfold, and I think the film, the two directors, Wayne Franklin and Chris Wheeler, did a wonderful job in making the story of my professional career pretty much after I got out of high school and onwards to playing. So it's gratifying, and of course I really appreciate all my friends that agreed to be in the movie, and it's really odd having people talk about you, I guess, too, and you're sitting there watching it. So I'm really thankful for all the people that participated in it.
You are a huge St. Louis Cardinals fan. Who is your all-time favorite player?
Stan Musial. They called him Stan the Man, and after my mother passed away a number of years ago, my sisters went through a lot of her things, and somehow she ended up with my scrapbook of when I was 10 years old, and I had forgotten that I cut out all the clippings of Stan Musial's last day as a Cardinal. And I always heard he was just a wonderful gentleman. And as it turned out a number of years ago, it all ended up with, had the opportunity to be at a function in St. Louis, and Stan was there, and I ended up playing 3 songs with him. He is a harmonica player. So we played You Are My Sunshine, Wabash Cannonball, and Take Me Out to the Ball Game. And I was a 10-year-old boy all over again with my hero, Stan Musial. And then after Stan, my favorite Cardinals are Ozzie Smith, of course, and Albert Pujols. Albert's no longer with the team, but I love him.
Yeah. So who's your favorite player currently?
Well, my favorite player currently... good question. My favorite player currently is Andrew McCutchen for the Pirates. And I also love, one of my favorite, well, you know what? My favorite player currently is still Albert Pujols. Let's revise that. My favorite player is Albert Pujols, and now he's a Los Angeles Angel. And I've been working with the Pujols Foundation a little bit, and we threw a benefit last November at the Skirmerhorn Symphony Hall here in Nashville for Albert's. It's called the Pujols Family Foundation, and Down syndrome is the main goal they have to further educate and raise money for Down syndrome awareness, but also for the impoverished people in Dominican Republic, where Albert is from. And but I still love to watch him play and hit. And on our show in Nashville, so I asked, so Emmy Lou Harris, who I used to work for, loves baseball, so she said, sure, for Albert, sure. And so it was me and my band, and Emmy Lou, Rodney Crowell, Jim Lauderdale, John Oates, and Jeff Black, and and Allison Krause. And so it was a wonderful show, and we raised some money for the Pujols Foundation. So, right now, Albert's still my favorite. And then there's about 3 favorites I have right now, but Albert, and then there's a guy who is now maybe, I think, 40, 41 years old, who originally came from Japan, that now is for the Miami Marlins, Ichiro Suzuki. And Ichiro is just the greatest player. He's so wonderful to watch. And then after Ichiro, I think Andrew McCutchen, the young center fielder for the Pirates. And you're talking to me, Lillian, because we just got back from spring training. Lynn and I went to go watch ball in Florida for 2 weeks. So that's what a person who's too old to play does. We go and watch.
That's really cool. Then I bet the Pujols Foundation was really happy to have you guys all helping out. So I absolutely love your song Circles Around Me, and I've always wondered what the song is about. Can you share with me?
Well, it's about many things, really. Jeff Black and I, the day that, we get together, right, and Jeff is so wonderful and just an amazing songwriter, and I just love sitting and talking with him. And so we were talking, and we were actually talking about, things like, just as simple as, gee, remember when you fell off the monkey bars when you were a kid? Boy, I could have broke my neck. And all of a sudden the phrase came to us, how in the world did we get this far? And we realized that we were both that day also reflecting upon, the fact that you reach an age and you've lost some friends and loved ones along the way, and you're thinking of them, and once again you go, well, how did what? If everything's gone so well, how in the world did we get this far? So really, I find it. If we're thinking and thinking about the fortunate situations that we're in, and obviously as a musician you have to create your fortunate situations. You have to work hard to create a good situation that you can play in, and and I know that there'll be times when I'm standing on the stage in Telluride, and I just look out, and it's just I feel I'm overwhelmed with a feeling of love, and then the bridge kind of says it, and the deafening sounds of all this love falling down on me. And so it's really a song of thanks and thankful for your friends and loved ones, that because we all need help and we all need the love from our friends.
Absolutely. So you talked about when you write music, do you write all your music for the mandolin, or do you write for fiddle or other instruments as well?
Being able to play a few different instruments, I guess sometimes can come from different sources. I know, like, there's an instrumental we've written, one called just a fast fiddle tune called Big Rabbit. Well, that day I wrote that one on the fiddle because I was looking for kind of just a good fast fiddle tune we could play, and I was probably influenced by my old friend Tex Logan on that tune. In general, I write on the mandolin. Although, for instance, there's a tune we do called Mahavishnu Mountain Boys, and actually made up the melodies on the guitar on that one. And then later realizing, well, then I could play this on the fiddle. I'd say about 75% of the time, probably, it all starts with especially on an instrumental, starts with the mandolin.
So earlier you said that you're coming into festival season. Merle Fest is quickly approaching us, and I'm very excited to be attending. You've been going to Merle Fest for almost twice as long as I have been alive. What changes have you seen over the years?
Lillian, I can't be gone. I can't have gone that many times. All right, how old are you?
I'm 13.
13? I thought 13, yeah. Well, when we first started going to Merle, the first festival was called the Eddie Merle Watson Memorial Festival, and then all of us that started going, we just kind of referred to it as Merle Fest, and somebody, B-Towns, I guess, probably started calling it Merle Fest after the musicians did. But the very first time, of course, we were all there because it was fresh on our minds, and those of us that played the first couple, most of us were all people that knew Doc and Merle. And I used to play on the road with Doc and Merle and loved him, and he and Doc. And so the first, of course, the first one was on the back of the flatbed truck. They hadn't even built a stage yet. And then, of course, as it progressed, it became Merle Fest. And then now, nowadays, of course, the festival had to grow and get more musicians and different kinds of music. And so, there aren't that many of us left that did play with Doc and Merle anymore. So that's kind of changed in that way musically. But as far as the festival goes, gosh, look at what a great job they do. For the different. I mean, the festival has grown into an event that appeals to all age groups. You got for the little pickers, and you got dancing tent, and you got the hillside stages and workshops for every instrument. So in that way, it's obviously changed a lot, but it sure appeals to a wide audience, and I love that part of it.
That's great. I love Merle Fest. Telluride is another festival venue, and you are the King of Telluride. You look so at ease when you play there. Do you ever get stage fright?
No, actually, no. I don't. I don't think I've ever had stage fright. I think there are sometimes I might get anxious. That I'm ready. I want. It's not time to play yet. Say it's 3 hours before your show, and maybe I'm anxious because we've got some new tunes, and I'm anxious to play them, and I'm really ready to get out there. But also, I think because I'm not a solo performer, and I don't like really playing by myself, and so having a group of being part of a group is of course you feel united, and you're all ready to go have fun together. So in that way, I'm always in one group or another, so I'm not really ever stage fright, but I think I get anxious, and I'm really I want to get out there and do it.
Yes, you always do look like you're having fun when you play. You're always on the road touring and producing music like your album Glamour and Grits. What are some unglamorous parts about touring?
Unglamorous parts about touring. Flying. Flying has become, let's back up here. The unglamorous parts, really, Lillian, it seems like what we do is travel for a living. And then our reward is, to get on stage for those 2 hours. And that's our reward. Unglamorous parts are, flying, in terms of carrying, when there's 7 of us flying, and so you have a challenge to make sure all your equipment makes it. As a mandolin and fiddle player, just carrying them on board the plane can sometimes be a bit of a challenge, depending on the size of the planes. And so traveling is its own. That's not very glamorous. Sometimes you might be running late. Maybe you didn't eat well before you played, and you want to eat well. You want to have your energy. So it can be a challenge to eat well. And of course, when you fly, a lot of times maybe you had a late show the night before, but you still got to be at the airport at 6 a.m. That means you got to get up at 4 a.m. and you only went to bed at 1. So sometimes it can be a challenge to get the proper rest you need, because as you do this over the years, that's one thing you have to keep aware of is, resting and being ready and conserving your energy, and that way you can give your best.
Definitely. I listen to lots of music on my iPod and on the radio. What is your favorite way to listen to music?
My favorite way is when I'm at home with my old, tube equipment, be it a record or a CD or whatever, a tape, even what I have to listen to. I enjoy now that they make noise canceling earplugs and headphones. I enjoy listening to music on planes. That's one thing I do to pass the time on planes. Is I take my iPod and sort of close my eyes and spin the dial and see where it comes up, because in my iPod you've got everything from no telling what you get, from Ella Fitzgerald to Bill Monroe to John McLaughlin to Marilyn Manson. It's all in there.
Really? So what was the last thing you were listening to? Beatles.
I'm in a Beatle phase right now, and it's interesting because I was a kid. I saw all the performances by the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show when I was younger than you, and I saw them live, and it's so great that I've been listening to the Beatles for 50 years, and I'm still discovering things that I didn't notice before. That's how great their records are. And our daughter gave me for Christmas this huge coffee table book. It's called Beatles Gear, and it details all the instruments they ever used, all of them. And of course, I love instruments, and I'm a fan of instruments and instrument catalogs and things like that. So right now, I'm just really not. And so I will read about the gear that they used, what equipment, what guitars, what amps they used on certain records, and then I'll listen to them and go into it that way. So the Beatles are still thrilling me.
I thought you were a Rolling Stone fan.
I am. Hey, when I was a kid, some people thought you couldn't like the Beatles and the Stones, but Lynn and I, we both realized you can like the Beatles and the Stones. So for totally different reasons. I'm a huge fan of the Rolling Stones, and a fan of Keith Richards' solo records as well as Mick Jagger's solo records. And hey, you never know, Lillian. I just might play a Rolling Stone song.
That would be great. How do you keep your ideas innovative and fresh?
You have to be aware of the new music that's coming on that you haven't heard before. There are genres of music that don't really appeal to me, but I'm still paying attention and looking at them to see what other people are playing, and because there's always something to learn. And I mean, so in that way, one of the things that helps keep me fresh is to be aware that there's always something to learn, and you can learn if you just keep your eyes and ears open. You can learn something in every situation.
But that explains why your iPod is so varied. So my podcast is called I Had to Ask. What question do you wish journalists had to ask while interviewing you?
Gosh, now that I wouldn't know. Somebody asked me, why do you make it look so hard when you play? I said, I didn't know I was. Yeah, other people make it look easy. You don't. I said, I don't know, because it's not that hard.
So if you could go back in time and give a younger you advice, what would you say?
Keep practicing your drums. I don't know. I mean, if I could go back and tell a younger version of myself, I think I would have told myself that pay attention to the words, because one thing that's always occurred to me, and it still does happen, when I listen to music, I just get I think I kind of listen to the whole sound. It just kind of washes over me, and that's the same way I listen to Beatle records. My sister and one of my sisters and I were talking about this, that we didn't really listen to words. We listened to the whole sound, and it just kind of comes over us. And so now, at the age I'm at now, I'm paying more attention to words. And of course, I've been writing a lot more songs in the last 10 years with friends. And so I think I would have told myself, maybe listen to the words a little more, because someday they'll mean something more to you.
What advice do you have for young musicians?
I think the main advice I would have is just remember, as you continue to play music, why you started. And the reason, of course, you started is just because you love the sound and you love music. And then as you continue to play, and then if you really start get out and doing music in front of an audience, and we go through, as you and I have been discussing, what are some of the challenges and stuff. So as you go through the challenges, things don't always go your way. Everything just doesn't happen. You can't play just anywhere you want to. You work your way up through a system of playing at certain jobs. And so I think, as you continue to play, you have to remember that the reason you started was because you love music, or you love the particular instrument that you choose to play. And that you didn't do this so you'd be famous, or that that people would know your name, or that you achieve notoriety, because fame, many people are famous for doing awful things. So fame is not always, if fame is your goal, then music may not be for you. But I think if you remember that you love music and your goal is to get better as a player and singer or dancer, however you associate your talent of music, if you can continue for your goal to improve as a player and singer, then you're doing the right thing.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell my listeners?
I don't know what else I could tell them that you're not already doing. But no, I just want to tell your listeners that how proud I am of you for getting this going, and I look forward to hearing your show over the years.
Thank you. This has been a great interview. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Lillian. I appreciate you.